Okay, let's start here. It was presented to us. Is this the best cross-conference rivalry in the NFL? Because we all know that the Giants obviously have taken the Patriots down, to which I would say, Caroline, clearly, it can't be a rivalry until you win one. Like, the Patriots aren't a rival to the Giants. All the Giants do is win Super Bowls when they take on the Patriots. So there's no rivalry there.
As somebody who is a fan of a college team that does not beat their rival nearly enough, I will say I disagree with you there, because you can still have a rivalry even when one team doesn't win that often. Okay, it's still a rivalry. There's still hatred there. I feel like it's like a nouveau riche NFL rivalry, and maybe that's more like Chiefs Eagles would be the best, like right now, present day new, cross rivalry. That one I feel like would be like the best one of the 2000s. But of all time, I feel like in order for it to be the best rivalry of all time, it probably needs to cross over different generations and different iterations of teams, which the Giants and the Patriots haven't.
There is not another morning show anywhere in the world today, and I will stand by this take without any factual evidence, that is going to use nouveau riche in the description of any. Like, I don't care if we're talking about football or really anything. Nouveau riche is not going to be used anywhere else today. That is a chef's kiss.
It's a French lesson.
That is a perfect 3 years of French. I couldn't even say my first name. Nonetheless, nouveau riche. Okay. I will say this. We're talking greatest. Thank you so much. Cross-conference rivalries. Steelers-Cowboys, comes to mind, but that's also my age. I'm the first to admit. Steelers-Cowboys comes to mind because I grew up with my dad talking about how important those Steelers rivalries, Steelers-Cowboys games were in the 70s. You see some of the Hall of Famers that were there. Like, you walk through the NFL Hall of Fame, you're reminded how important Steelers-Cowboys felt, and it still feels special when those two teams play. So I think that that's probably a better rivalry because it has more generations behind it. I often get sucked into a rivalry that I don't feel personally. I've got a Raiders helmet sitting over my shoulder. Everybody can see. I don't feel the Raiders rivalry necessarily, but many people do tell me that the Raiders 49ers is a rivalry worth noting. I'm not sure I buy that.
I love a geographical rivalry because they just kind of make sense. And I guess, the Raiders and Niners, both West Coast teams, like that it kind of makes sense. And we have so many, divisional rivals. I think the Bears-Packers is the best rivalry that has, ever been, it ever existed in the NFL. I think a new one, and I'm a Saints fan, so I'm probably biased here, but I love the Falcons-Saints rivalry. But those are divisional rivalries. Like, those make sense. Right. Those are obvious. You see these teams twice a year. You see these teams every single year. Fitz, I just don't think the NFL makes rivalries like they used to. Like, I think that the rivalries exist in the NFL, and I know that's probably an unpopular take, and I know there's probably old head NFL fans that are wagging their fingers at me, but the rivalries now are born from players. It's Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, or Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow. It's not necessarily Chiefs Eagles, but we want to see, I think now as a football society, we become more and more obsessed with individuals rather than we have teams. But I just don't think, and I'm a college football fan. That is my favorite sport in the world. So obviously, we just had Jay Busby on to talk about the Iron Bowl. Now that is bitter. Auburn hates Alabama, and Alabama hates everything to do with Auburn. Ohio State and Michigan, those are, deep-seated rivalries that those schools exist just to hate one another. We don't have rivalries like that, I don't think, in the NFL.
Fairness,
even Packers-Bears doesn't feel like that anymore.
So I will. For the context of what we're talking with cross-conference rivalries, that's where it gets much more difficult. It's really hard to find an AFC versus NFC rivalry that hits the same way. What you're talking about, I genuinely believe, as I've said for years, the NFL is my favorite sport in the world. College football is my favorite sport to cover because I don't care who wins or loses. There is nothing like rivalry week in college football. Like, as somebody that has absolutely no skin in the game, watching that but the college football equivalent of a cross-conference rivalry would have to be a cross-conference rivalry. And that gets tougher. Like, you'd be talking about, we've got Texas, Ohio State, starting the season in a couple weeks. But, like, it's harder to find a cross-conference rivalry that hits the same way as any of the rivalry week rivalries hit. So, it is. That's why I hate it every week. Every year we need to come up with a different word.
It would be like Florida State or Florida Miami.
Yeah.
But those are cross conference rivalries, but those are geographical rivalries. Those make sense. Clemson and South Carolina. It's in the state of South Carolina, but 2 different conferences. So geographical, but different conferences nonetheless.
So let's look at this cross-conference preseason matchup. We've got the Giants and the Patriots. Vegas loves the Patriots. We've talked about that a lot. Who has the higher ceiling in your mind, the New York Football Giants or the New England Patriots?
It's interesting because I think both of these teams have much different vibes or narratives going into it. I think that the vibes in New England are so incredibly high. They get their guy, their golden boy, Mike Vrabel, back in New England, and everybody's excited about Drake Maye stepping into year 2. And look, I'm not here to bust, anybody's bubble here. I think the Giants' ceiling is higher. And I just think that we've all become so obsessed with the Giants being a joke of a football team that we can't see the improvements that they've made year over year. And look, I understand Russell Wilson is a shell of what he used to be. I totally and completely understand that. They are in transition. They are kind of grooming their quarterback of the future in Jackson Dart. But are we just going to ignore how good the Giants defense has the opportunity to be? Are we going to ignore that? I think that the Giants can keep themselves in a lot of games that we don't feel like they will even be in today on August 21st because of how nasty that defense is going to be. I think the Patriots are still just too young of a team. Drake Maye is just too big of a mystery and a question mark to me. This roster as a whole is really young. They've drafted a lot of really good pieces, but they're still young and inexperienced. So with that defense, I have to say the Giants have a higher ceiling.
The Giants defensive line has a chance to be no, I think the Giants defensive line has a chance to be the best in the NFL. That defensive line is going to be absolutely atrocious for anybody to try and stop. That gets really interesting to me because that's one thing that we've learned in the preseason that I think we can take is, look, I know Abdul Carter got pancaked last week. Fine. Abdul Carter is going to be an absolute beast. The depth on that defensive line is what really makes it hit at a different level to me. So now you've got the ability to just work players in a rotation that's going to be tough for offensive lines to keep up with. That defensive line is going to make games particularly ugly. And when your defensive line is that good, all of a sudden I think while I think that the Patriots have a higher ceiling, I think at some point when I look at this, it's easier for me to find a path for the Giants to win some games I didn't think they could win. The Patriots are young. Drake Maye is going to have to learn the Josh McDaniels offense. I think the Patriots are a 6 or 7 win team this year that feels much better than where they were. The defensive line being as good as I think it's going to be, combined with the fact that even though I'm the one that keeps yelling Russ is washed, he's looked pretty good in the preseason. I don't know. They still have Malik Neighbors. They still have one of the better wide receivers in the conference. I'm looking around thinking the Giants can probably sneak up on some people. So weirdly, I think the Patriots are going to underperform expectations, and the Giants, I'm in on, at this point, outperforming expectations. Even if that means they both end up being 6 or 7 win teams, that would be an underperforming year for Vrabel and an overperforming year for Dable.
And I think we have to look at the schedules as well, because I think a lot of times we'll go off of just vibes, like, oh, this team feels like a 6-win team. But then you look at the schedule and you realize, oh, actually, there's way more gettable teams here. I do think the New England has a more favorable schedule. Just looking at their schedule, they have the Jets, obviously, the Titans and the Saints. They play the AFC South and the NFC South. Well, that right there, 2 games with the Jets, the Titans and the Saints, that's 4 right there. And then looking at the rest of their schedule, they don't have it up in front of me, but I think there's about 6 to 7 gimmies or 6 to 7 gimmies plus winnable games that, if you look at New England's ceiling being around 7 to 8 wins, I think that they can get to that point. That's just if these teams that we view as going to be horrific actually are as bad as they are, and New England continues to get better week over week over week. But that being said, I think that the Giants have the opportunity that over the next couple of years, not this year, I don't think that the Giants are going to be a playoff team this year. I don't think that they necessarily have to be a playoff team in order to show growth. I think maybe 3 to 4 years from now, we could look back on the way, and that's if Dable and Joe Schoen, the general manager in New York, make it over the next 3 to 4 years. But we might be looking back on the way that the Giants have built this football team, and we say, yeah, that's a way that you can win in modern football. Continuing to build through the defense, not pushing and overdrafting a quarterback in the draft just because you feel like you need a quarterback, and then making a swing, as they did, to trade up and get Jackson Dart for the guy that you believe is the guy. It's a slow build, and I don't know if this was necessarily the Giants' philosophy or roadmap to building a potential contender. I'm not saying that they will be a potential contender, but I am saying with how filthy this defense is, how much I've seen from Jackson Dart, granted through 2 preseason games, but nonetheless, and Malik Neighbors has the ability to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL for the next 5 to 10 years. Those are all key pieces of a championship contender. So maybe the Giants do show us a new roadmap to contention.
The only unfortunate thing you mentioned schedule, according to Warren Sharp's 2025 schedule analysis, he does it different. He identifies by Vegas odds to project win totals, and that's how he goes through all of it. According to his projections, the Giants have the toughest schedule in the NFL. So